Imagine for a second that you're sitting at your desk.
Oh, setting the scene. I like it.
Yeah, so it's late on a Friday afternoon. You're completely exhausted. The office is mostly empty, and you're just, trying to clear out your inbox before the weekend.
The danger zone.
Exactly. Suddenly, an email hits. It's marked urgent, and it's from the managing partner of your law firm. The message is tense, highly confidential, and it instructs you to immediately initiate a massive wire transfer to finalize this high-profile merger that everyone in the office has been whispering about for months.
Right, so the stakes are huge.
Huge. And the tone is perfectly matched to the partner's usual kind of blunt communication style. The email address is flawless. I mean, it looks completely 100% legitimate.
Yeah.
But here's the terrifying reality. It is a complete fake.
Wow. And I mean, if you execute that wire transfer, the capital, and honestly, in all likelihood, the foundational reputation of the firm, it just vanishes the second that money clears.
It's gone.
Yeah, gone. And the mechanism that allows this to happen is hiding in plain sight. It's built into the very fabric of how we communicate.
And that nightmare scenario is happening every single day. Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are analyzing a really fascinating guide titled The Law Firm's Guide to Email SPF Authentication.
A bit of a dry title, but incredibly important material.
Definitely. Our goal today is to dissect the underlying architecture of standard email, explain the exact mechanics of how digital forgery is actually executed at the protocol level, and decode the defense stack designed to secure a domain. Okay, let's unpack this. We have an industry that operates entirely on confidentiality, right? Attorney-client privilege is everything. Yet it's relying on a communication backbone that is fundamentally porous.
What's fascinating here is the paradox. I mean, it is striking. Law firms are apex targets.
Apex targets. I like that phrasing.
Well, they are. They consolidate highly sensitive intellectual property, non-public merger data, and massive financial transactions into a single centralized database.
Yeah.
A sophisticated threat actor doesn't need to breach 50 individual corporations.
Right. They just go for the one law firm representing all 50.
Exactly. It's the ultimate jackpot. And the primary attack vector for that compromise isn't some, complex zero-day exploit that took months to code. It's just exploiting the inherent trust built into SMTP.
Right. Standard email. And whenever I look at the history of Internet protocols, SMTP always stands out as this relic of a more innocent time. The guide highlights its fatal flaw, which is that it has absolutely no native mechanism to verify the identity of the sender.
None whatsoever.
But I have to push back a little on the sheer scale of this oversight.
Wait, so you're telling me the foundation of global digital communication was basically built on the honor system? It's like someone putting my return address on a fake envelope and the post office just shrugging. It's exactly like that. And to understand why, you have to look at the environment where SMTP was actually forged. We are talking about the early ARPANET days.
Okay, so way back.
Yeah, the network was a closed loop. It was academic institutions, government researchers, military installations. The nodes were already physically and administratively secured.
So they didn't really need to worry about strangers.
Right. The engineering priority at the time was robust routing. They just wanted to make sure a message could survive network outages and actually find its destination. Authentication just wasn't coded into the protocol because, well, cryptographic verification requires significant computational overhead.
Which computers back then didn't really have to spare.
Exactly. And more importantly, they just didn't think they needed it. Everyone on the network was implicitly trusted.
So the system was built for a village where everyone knew each other, and then we suddenly scaled it to a global metropolis filled with bad actors, but we just, kept the village's open-door policy.
That is a perfect way to put it, yeah.
So mechanically, how is an attacker exploiting that today? The guide talks about forging the from address, but what does that actually look like at the server level?
Well, it comes down to the separation between the envelope sender and the header sender in an email's data packet.
The envelope and the header.
Yeah. When a mail server communicates with another mail server, it uses a command called mail from. That is the envelope. But the email client, like what you actually look at in Outlook or Gmail or Apple Mail.
The part the user actually sees.
Right. That displays the header from, which is completely separate data inside the message body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, an attacker can just spin up a rogue mail server, put whatever they want in that header from field to match a managing partner's exact address, and the protocol, by default, will just deliver it.
That is terrifying. It's pure social engineering facilitated by a massive technical blind spot.
Precisely.
Okay, so if the core protocol is entirely blind to identity, the recipient's mail server must be forcing the sender to carry a separate ID badge, right? Which brings us to the primary subject of our source material, Center Policy Framework, or SPF.
Yep, the first line of defense.
So since the system wasn't designed with security, we need a way to bolt authentication onto it.
Right. SPF is really the internet's first major architectural patch to this problem. If anyone can claim to be sending from a law firm's domain, the firm has to establish an authoritative mechanism that proves who is actually operating their legitimate infrastructure.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The common analogy I always hear for SPF is a bouncer at a nightclub holding a VIP guest list. You check the name at the door.
It's a classic analogy.
It is, but looking at the actual mechanics in the guide, that feels a bit, I don't know, passive. It's more like a corporation's public registry of authorized signatories.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Like, imagine a bank receives a massive check. Before they cash it, they don't just ask the person standing there if they're allowed to sign. They query the state's public business registry to see if that specific individual was officially authorized by the board of directors.
That analogy holds up much better, actually, because it captures the active query process. SPF relies entirely on DNS. The law firm publishes a specific text record in their DNS settings. That record is the public registry.
And what exactly does that registry say?
It explicitly lists the IP addresses of the mail servers that are authorized to send mail on behalf of their domain, whether that's Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, or, a marketing tool.
Okay, so let's trace the actual journey of an email. A lawyer hits send. The email travels across the internet to the recipient's server.
Yep, moving through the tubes.
Right. And before the recipient server lets that message anywhere near an inbox, it pauses. It looks at the domain and the return address, goes out to the public DNS, and pulls that SPF text record.
Exactly. It's doing a background check.
So it checks if the IP address of the server that just handed over the email matches the IP addresses listed in that DNS guest list.
And the recipient server is completely unforgiving during this query.
Unforgiving how?
Well, if there is a match, great, the email is allowed to proceed. But if the sending IP is not on that authorized list, the recipient server treats the message as a spoofing attempt. It will flag it, quarantine it in a spam folder, or sometimes just drop the connection entirely.
But wait, if a firm uses marketing software, like HubSpot, but forgets to put them on this SPF guest list, does their own legitimate marketing email get bounced by the bouncer?
Yes. That exact scenario happens all the time, which brings up an operational reality that knowledgeable IT teams are constantly battling. It's something a lot of surface-level guides skip over entirely.
Right, because it's not just a one-and-done IT ticket.
No, not at all. Modern law firms don't just send email from one server anymore. They have billing software generating invoices, CRM platforms sending newsletters, maybe a third-party ticketing system for client support.
And every single one of those external services has to be added to that public registry.
Every single one, which introduces a massive point of failure, the 10 DNS lookup limit.
Okay, what is that?
When a recipient server queries an SPF record, the protocol strictly limits the number of recursive DNS lookups to 10. This was originally designed to prevent denial of service attacks.
To stop servers from just getting caught in infinite loops.
Exactly. But as a firm adds third-party vendors, those vendors often require the firm to, quote-unquote, include their own complex SPF records, and those includes might trigger 3 or 4 lookups each.
Oh, I see. It creates like a nested doll of DNS queries.
Exactly. And the moment a law firm's SPF record exceeds that 10 lookup limit, the entire record breaks. The recipient server immediately fails the check.
Wow. So suddenly, an attorney's highly critical, perfectly legitimate court filing gets bounced just because the marketing department added a new event management tool that pushed the DNS lookups to 11.
Yep. The bouncer rips up the guest list and kicks everyone out.
And a false positive on a marketing newsletter is a nuisance, but a false positive on a legal filing or a wire instruction, that could be an unmitigated disaster for the firm.
Which is why the guide mentions that law firms often have to rely on external platforms to handle this. Services like Mormax.net or similar routing tools to manage and flatten these SPF records dynamically.
Flatten them, like condense the lookups.
Basically, yeah. They optimize the queries so the firm stays under the limit without the IT guy having to manually audit IP addresses every Friday night.
That makes sense. The maintenance sounds highly complex, but I guess the alternative is essentially operating a digital open door, which shifts the conversation really from just IT administration directly into high-stakes risk management.
Oh, absolutely. The consequences of failing this authentication process touch on the existential survival of a legal practice.
The source text hits on 3 major business imperatives here. And the first one operates completely in the shadows, domain reputation.
Right, because major email providers aren't just looking at individual emails anymore. They are running massive algorithmic reputation engines on entire domains.
So if an attacker realizes a law firm has no SPF record,
They will commandeer that domain to blast out millions of phishing emails. And the algorithms at Google and Microsoft see this massive spike in malicious traffic originating from the firm's domain.
do they realize the firm is being spoofed?
They don't care. They don't investigate whether the firm's servers were breached or if it is just a spoofing attack. They simply tank the domain's reputation score and quietly shadow ban it.
Shadow ban it. So the firm has no idea.
None. The firm only realizes there is a problem when clients start calling, really angry, to ask why they haven't received any communications or updates in a week.
And that leads directly to the second imperative, which is the absolute cornerstone of the legal profession. Trust. I mean, if an attacker successfully spoofs an attorney and tricks a client into wiring a real estate down payment to a fraudulent account, the financial loss is devastating.
Crush it.
But the loss of trust, that fractures the attorney-client relationship permanently. How can a client confidently communicate with their counsel if they are constantly second-guessing the authenticity of their own inbox?
They can't. They just can't. And the courts and regulatory bodies are acutely aware of this, which brings us to the most critical legal consequence for the firms themselves.
Right, so what does this all mean legally? If a law firm gets spoofed because they didn't configure a simple text record in their DNS, could the firm itself actually be on the hook for negligence?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the standard of care has fundamentally evolved. Historically, negligence in legal data protection might mean, I don't know, an attorney leaving sensitive physical case files on a park bench or the subway.
Sure, physical negligence.
Today, failing to implement basic industry-standard digital protections is viewed through the exact same lens. Ignorance of standard technical controls is no longer a viable defense.
Because the tools to fix it are readily available.
Exactly. So if a client suffers a financial loss because a firm failed to publish a basic text record in their DNS to secure their own domain, regulatory bodies are increasingly taking the stance that the firm breached its ethical obligation.
Like under GDPR or industry certifications?
Yes. You are expected to secure your digital infrastructure with the exact same rigor that you applied to the physical locks on the filing room door.
Wow. The legal liability alone should push this to the top of literally any managing partner's agenda. But as powerful as SPF is, the guide makes it very clear that it is only the first step. It's just the foundation.
Right, because securing the sender's origin point is great, but it still leaves the message itself vulnerable while it's bouncing across various internet nodes.
Right. If an attacker intercepts the email in transit and, say, alters the routing numbers for a wire transfer right in the body of the text, SPF won't catch that.
Because SPF only authenticates the envelope sender, it has absolutely no mechanism to verify the integrity of the message contents.
It just checks if the messenger is allowed in the building, not if they swap the letters in their briefcase.
Perfect way to visualize it. And this is why SPF must serve as the base layer for a larger architectural defense stack. The second pillar of that stack is DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail.
DKIM. The guide notes that DKIM uses a cryptographic signature. Let's dig into the actual mechanics of that for a second, because it isn't just a digital wax seal. It's a mathematical guarantee.
Yes, it relies on public and private key cryptography.
So how does it actually work when I send an email?
Okay, so when an authorized server prepares to send an email, it takes the body of the message and certain headers, and it runs them through an algorithm. This generates a unique cryptographic hash, which is just a fixed string of characters representing that exact content.
Okay, so it turns the message into a unique code.
Right. The sending server then uses a private key, which is securely hidden on the server, to encrypt that hash, and it attaches it to the email as a signature.
So the email travels to the recipient. The recipient server sees the DKIM signature, goes back out to the sender's public DNS, and retrieves the corresponding public key.
Yeah.
And he uses that public key to decrypt the hash. Then the recipient server runs its own algorithm on the email body, right?
Exactly. It does the math itself. And if the hash it generates matches the decrypted hash from the sender, boom, the message is authentic.
It's elegant and highly secure. Because if a threat actor intercepts the email and alters even a single comma in a legal contract attached to the message, The hashes will no longer match.
Not even close. The cryptographic math just fails. And the recipient server instantly knows the email was tampered with in transit.
So we have SPF verifying the authorized servers, and DKIM mathematically guaranteeing the integrity of the content. But here's the gap I see. What happens when an email fails those checks?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because for a long time, the recipient server essentially had to guess how strict the sending domain wanted them to be. Some servers would drop the email entirely, others would just, flag it with a warning banner, leaving the end user to figure it out.
Which, as you can imagine, is an unacceptable risk posture for an enterprise environment. You cannot leave security enforcement up to the subjective interpretation of thousands of different receiving mail servers. You need a centralized policy.
Enter the final boss.
Exactly. This introduces the final and really the most powerful layer of the defense stack, DMRC, which stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance.
If SPF is the VIP guest list, and DKIM is a tamper-proof wax seal on the message itself, then DMRC is what? The security manager who throws out the intruders.
It is the security manager, yes. DMRC acts as the overarching policy layer. It's another DNS record, but it serves two entirely new functions. First, it dictates enforcement. It literally instructs the recipient server on exactly what to do with a message that fails SPF or DKIM.
So it takes the guesswork away from the receiving server.
Entirely. You can set the policy to pin none just for monitoring, or quarantine to send failures to the spam folder, or the ultimate goal, reject.
Reject. That sounds absolute.
It is. It tells the world to absolutely destroy any email that doesn't pass authentication. Do not deliver it. Do not put it in spam. Delete it.
Wow. But wait, getting a firm to a reject policy is notoriously painful, isn't it? Because if you haven't perfectly mapped every single third-party vendor in your SPF and DKIM records, turning on reject means you will start aggressively blocking your own legitimate communications.
You'll blow up your own firm's email. Yes, but DMRC provides the exact tool needed to safely reach that enforcement level. And this is the second function, the reporting.
The XML aggregate reports.
Yes, and the reporting capability of DMRC completely illuminates the battlefield. When you publish a DMRC record, you specify an email address. And every single day, major providers like Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft will generate aggregated XML reports and send them to you.
And what's in those reports?
They detail every single IP address globally that attempted to send an email claiming to be from your domain, and whether those IP addresses passed or failed your authentication checks.
Oh, wow. So to go back to my analogy, it's the equivalent of the security manager not only throwing out the intruders, but handing you a detailed dossier of exactly who tried to sneak in, what tools they used, and where they came from.
It's exactly that. It's incredible visibility. You can use those reports to identify legitimate third-party services you maybe forgot to authorize, fix their configuration, and slowly, safely tighten the noose until you can switch the policy to reject.
So it shifts a firm from a passive, hopeful defense to an active, mathematically enforced security posture.
It transforms email from a liability into a highly controlled asset. Without DMRS reporting, you are flying completely blind. You're basically just waiting for a client to call and report a stolen wire transfer to realize you are under attack.
That shift from blind assumption to cryptographic certainty is just monumental. We started this deep dive with a nightmare scenario, a Friday afternoon forgery that could financially ruin a firm. We've seen how the trusting, antiquated architecture of standard SMTP makes that forgery trivially easy for attackers.
Frighteningly easy.
But the takeaway here is that leaving that architecture exposed is no longer an option. Implementing SPF to authorize your infrastructure, deploying DKIM to seal the contents, and enforcing it all with DMRs is not just an IT project. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable requirement to protect the sacrosanct trust that really defines the legal profession.
It is the definitive bedrock of digital trust today. But, as we look at how incredibly effective this stack is, it does raise a broader architectural question for the future.
Oh, where are we going next?
Well, think about it. SPFs, DKIM, and DMRs all fundamentally rely on verifying the identity of centralized mail servers and querying central DNS authorities.
Right. It's all based on trusting the central registry.
But as the internet potentially moves toward decentralized, blockchain-based communication structures where there are no central servers to authorize and no central DNS to query, how will we verify the guest list of trust in the future?
Oh, man. Now, that is a structural puzzle to keep you up at night.
I love that.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go map your infrastructure, monitor those XML reports, and we will catch you next time.